Good morning, good morning. We are back on our social media channels. So if you are joining us, we are currently live on Facebook, on YouTube, and on X as well. We're going to be adding Telegram into the mix. So if you are commonly in our Telegram channel, looking at the updates there, we're going to be going live there as well. And we're also live here on StreamYard. So if you're joining us, we're grateful to have you with us. We'll be posting this on our ROS Media channel and also in the Telegram group. This is meant to be just a 15, 20-minute sneak peek into this coming Saturday's webinar. If you are not familiar with what we do at the weekends, then we run a flagship webinar every Saturday morning, 10 a.m. UK time. This coming Saturday on the 4th of July, Ian and I are going to be sharing with you what could be worth between $50 to $100 million to you. Sound too good to be true? Well, stick around, because with the secret that we're going to be revealing is how using a foreign grantor trust, your foreign grantor trust, and how filing something called 1099 OID can redirect taxes that the US Treasury has already been paid by investment banks. You're not sure what we're talking about there, because I get it. You know, this is quite a mouthful, quite a lot to understand. Just understand this. You are potentially owed back taxes. Who wouldn't want to have those back? And these are taxes that are sitting there, prepaid, already been paid to the Treasury. All we're doing is we're redirecting them to your trust that we can administer for you as well. So that is just a very, very simple explanation of what Ian's going to talk about on Saturday. Obviously, he'll be going into a lot more detail about that. I guess, Ian, if we just gave an elevator view of what's coming up on Saturday, let's start with, you know, how do the banks really make money? You know, most of us are taught that when we get a mortgage or a car loan or a credit card, the bank kind of takes money from someone else's savings or from this vault that they've got of all their account holders' savings. It's all piled up there in the corner, and then they lend a proportion of that to us because we want to buy a house or we want to buy a car. But your research shows something very different, doesn't it? Could you explain in plain English, you know, how does the simple act of signing your name, how that actually creates new money out of thin air?
Well, yeah, it's a sleight of hand, really. It's an accounting trick. The banks have a unique standing as organisations. They can literally take a promise from you to pay them back and create a debt security, which is a mortgage or a loan or a credit card or even a bank payment, just because you made a promise to pay them back. Or to pay them in the future, and that promise is what's known in finance as a negotiable instrument. You make a promise; it's open-ended, and you say, "I will pay you in the future, whatever the value of the loan, mortgage, or credit card is, or even the bank payment." And the banks say, "Well, we'll take that." They will hold that on their balance sheet as an asset, simultaneously creating a liability, which is a debt, and it's the debt that you see in your account. That's your mortgage or your loan or your credit card or your bank payment. You know, you make a bank payment, you think you're transferring money from your account to somebody else's account. Well, actually what's going on is you're just making a new promise to pay, a new ledger entry. The bank's going to take your promise to pay the other account. That recipient account is going to say, "Thank you for that. We're going to show that as an asset on our balance sheet, and we're going to create a matching liability on the other side of their balance sheet and create a debt which looks like it's a payment, but it's actually just another debt that's being created." So it's not just me who believes this. It's the Bank of England in their Money in the Modern Economy. They describe it. The Federal Reserve describe it in Modern Money Mechanics. Professor Richard Werner talks about it in lots of his research papers. So it's not just me. coming up with some theory. It's actually written down by some very, very well-respected organizations. So.
Okay. So if our signatures are what creates the value then in the first place, why do the banks keep that secret and treat us like we're the ones borrowing from them?
Well, the banks want us to pay interest on these debts. That's what the whole banking industry is really all about. It's all about them charging interest back on debt that they didn't have any liability or didn't create from their own reserves or resources. They have this accounting exemption. They can create this debt from a promise. They don't have any risk. They can sell that on. And the investment banks then step in and say, well, what can we do with this? Well, they do lots with it. They make a lot of profit by what's called hypothecation. They use those created debt securities, and they use them, multiply them up, make a lot of profit on them. But because the debt securities don't belong to them, and because they're debtors themselves, as all the banks are in the bankrupt system, they have to pay taxes on them. And therein lies the secret they don't really want people to know about.
Right, let's talk about that then, this under the table mismatch, because you also talk about a massive mismatch in how the big banks handle those taxes as well behind the scenes. In simple terms, how are banks using the loans, the mortgages, the credit cards that we sign to get huge amounts of profit, build up these surpluses while leaving the average person completely in the dark? And what's the mismatch between what should be paid in taxes versus what they are actually paying?
So what's going on is that the banks, don't have any money of their own, really. They've got shareholder capital. That's all they really have. They don't have the ability to lend out deposits from other people. They can only create these debts as taking in deposits from their own customers. But those deposits are promises to pay in the future. Well, that enables them to use these debts, the securities, hypothecate, as I say, and because they have to pay tax for the use of what I call signature credit, which is human energy, they should be paying taxes. It's called backup withholding tax under the original issue discount methodology. But because it's a voluntary tax, they underfund it. They don't really want people to know the full extent of the tax liability for the use of the signature credit. So they pay nominal amounts, normally 1% of their actual liability. And because it's voluntary, they can voluntarily pay it to the United States Treasury. And because the recipient of the tax, which is the living soul that created the transference of the energy in the first place, never turns up and says, hey, I want the taxes because you owe me tax. Those voluntary tax payments are vastly underfunded. But it doesn't mean that you can't get the taxes, because if you know how to do it, you can claim those taxes, redirection of taxes from the banks they're not paying any more in tax. You're just redirecting the taxes that they paid, but they paid them on the wrong tax modules. And you're redirecting taxes to the right tax module, up to $2 million per year. Wow. And that's where your $50 to $100 million comes from going forward. If you've got 25 to 50 years of playing Monopoly, that's where your 50 to 100 million comes from.
Okay, so 2 million a year is what's available to all of you who have the ability to do this with the right structure. As long as you've been playing Monopoly for long enough, obviously there's taxes that are being paid every year. For some of you, it may amount to way more than 2 million. 2 million's the limit. For some of you, it may be way less, but it's still taxes that are owed back that you can redirect. So why would you not want to do that? So there's also I think one of the most exciting parts of this, Ian, is the connection with this to mortgages, because I think that's probably one of most families' biggest ever purchases is the home they live in, isn't it? And it's probably the longest term that they'll ever pay something back over as well. So how can this 1099 OID filing, how can that redirect this tax on mortgages as well? And how potentially, depending on the timings and what the situation of the individual is, how could that also potentially help somebody even save their home?
Well, when you realise that when you sign a mortgage, a contract, you are transferring your energy into the bank system. They create the mortgage. Let's say it was $1 million, and you then end up having to pay interest on this $1 million mortgage. Well, that original promise to pay is called a negotiable instrument. The bank that creates the mortgage takes it on as an asset on their balance sheet, creates that matching liability of $1 million. What they do is they then sell that mortgage security, it's become now, onto an investment bank that operates generally in New York somewhere, and they have to pay taxes for the use of it. So what you're doing is, when you create the right structure, which is a foreign grantors trust, and that foreign grantors trust files a 1099 OID, what actually happens is the foreign grantors trust, in the language used in the Bills of Exchange Act, fills up the instrument. So think of it like a ledger. You've got one side, you've got a debt of $1 million, and then the foreign grantors trust files 1099 OID, which accepts that $1 million debt with a credit and discharges it down to zero. So it can discharge the mortgage debt at the top of the ledger, and then that means that the foreign grantors trust is now the holder in due course, which is the recipient of the taxes that the investment bank has been paying for the use of that $1 million. And it's at the face value that the tax is equal to the face value of tax redirection. So you can discharge a mortgage of $1 million by creating a foreign grantors trust. The foreign grantors trust files 1099 OID against the mortgage security. That discharges the mortgage and redirects $1 million of taxes equal to the value of the mortgage itself. So if you had a mortgage, you would be, you start with $1 million mortgage, you end with no mortgage and $1 million of tax redirection.
Amazing. Amazing. For anybody listening right now who is tired of maybe feeling like they're on a hamster wheel with their work, with their bills, with the banking system as a whole, what would you say is the number one breakthrough that they're going to experience if they join us on Saturday, Ian? Because a lot of people are going to be listening to this thinking, wow, you're telling me that I can not only discharge my mortgage, so there's no more, quote unquote debt there for me to pay back, but I can also get the face value of the mortgage redirected and have that as in what people would have recognized today as spendable cash. Sounds too good to be true. What would you say is the number one breakthrough they're going to hear on that webinar?
Well, I hope that after a while, and it probably won't happen on the first time they hear me talk about it, but after a while, they'll realize that there isn't actually any money. It's just ledgers. And what I'm showing them is how to play the game of Monopoly through a foreign grantors trust, which enables these ledgers to redirect taxes and to discharge debt, because there isn't any money of substance. It's all a game of accounting, really. It's all a tax game. That's what Monopoly really is. It's a game of taxes. And I'm showing you how to use a foreign grantors trust to redirect taxes and discharge debt exactly in the same way as the banks are already doing it. But you're doing it in reverse. You're using it for your advantage, whereas they are using the system for their advantage, where you can use it for your advantage. So that's the biggest breakthrough. It's the realization that there isn't really any money of substance. It's all ledgers. You create these debt securities through your signature, and that generates a tax revenue that you should be receiving, but you never claim it because you don't know that you're entitled to it. And that's what really this is all about. It's if you like, it's like a massive windfall that you didn't know you were entitled to.
Yeah. And I think that was, for me, that was the biggest breakthrough I had when I fully wrapped my head around the fact that there is no money. And that's going to take time. It's not something that happens immediately, because we are pre-programmed and we are brought up in a world where we think money is real, that it has value, that the notes in my wallet do have a value to them. But again, they don't. They're just IOUs, they're promises to pay. It even says so in the small print. If you've got a UK banknote, that's what it says at the top. I promise to pay the bearer the sum of. So it's just an IOU. That's all you're handing out. And the only way that you can do that, you can rationalize that and ratify that, is to balance that. Any accounting system, as Ian has said, has two sides. It has an in and it has an out. It has a credit, it has a debt, whatever it may be. So that's how our commercial, how the world, the global banking system works. And as soon as you can understand that it is just ledgers, and that we are contributing to that by pushing out these new securities, these promises to pay, but that we also have the ability to then redirect the taxes that are owed back to us, because the investment banks are using all of those securities for their benefit when they don't even own them. So I'm excited to see you on Saturday morning, 10 a.m. UK time. Join us there. One thing I will say is, because of the nature of this information, guys, as you can imagine, these are big, bold claims that we are making here, 50 to 100 million, but we are going to back it up with solid evidence and solid proof that this stuff works, okay? And that this isn't some dodgy tax loophole. This is using the system as it was designed to begin with. So there's nothing untoward about this. There's nothing risky about doing this, because you are a creditor. And the sooner you get to grips with the fact that you are the creditor, you are the source of all of this, and also that money itself does not exist, that's always been a ruse to keep you in a slavery model, then that is really going to be a paradigm shift for all of you, I feel. So on Saturday, because like I said, the nature of this content being so life-changing, being for many people so controversial in the world that we live in, and the banks don't want you to know this stuff, we always get flooded with registrations for our Saturday morning webinar, but we only have 1,000 seat capacity on those weekend webinars. So my advice is register as quickly as you can. If you want to do that, you can go here, roswebinars.is, reserve your seat, and we will see you on Saturday morning. If you want to learn more about Ian's work, he has written countless technical papers on this with all the historical record, all of the IRS and UCC codes in there to back up that this isn't something that he's just come up with. This is just him taking all of these jigsaw pieces and putting them together for you in a way that's understandable and in a way that is actually achievable as well. If you want to learn more about the technical side, then go to ecclesialaw.is and you will find all of Ian's technical papers there. If you'd rather just listen to Ian and I talk about this on our conversations and our interviews that we do, then you can go to our Ross Media platform and you can see multiple interviews there. But I would say if you want to join us Saturday, then that is your first priority. Register for the webinar. I look forward to seeing you there, as does Ian. Before we let everybody go in, any final thoughts?
Yeah, if you want to know more about it, as Andy's mentioned, there's lots of places you can go to read things, but we are relaunching our Ian Clifford avatar very soon, and we'll make that available. So you can ask it questions whenever you want to find something out. It's got a vast library of information, and I think that's the way that a lot of people are going to be able to learn about the whole subject that I talk about on the webinars and we talk about on the interview. So it's on-demand information that you don't have to read a book or join a video library. If you just want to have it on your phone or your computer and you want to ask it questions as you think of them, then I think that's going to become a very popular thing amongst the membership.
I think so too. We only spoke earlier on, didn't we, about how members would love to potentially have an audience with Ian, and how practically that just isn't possible, guys, because Ian's working, every single day on the protocols, on doing deep research, on making sure that we deliver for all of you. So we can't pull Ian away from that just to have a chat about, your journey. I'm sure he would love to do that, but it's just not practical. But hey, the avatar is your next best thing. That is an audience with Ian, because it's got all of Ian's knowledge, all of the technical documentation loaded into it. You can ask it any question you like, and it will be able to give you the exact same answer that Ian himself would give you anyway. So I'm super excited for the avatar to launch. Bigger, better than the previous one. So look out for that. And we will see you hopefully on Saturday morning, 10 a.m. sharp, on our webinar platform for our coming webinar, worth between 50 to 100 million, the secret revealed on how your foreign grantor trust filing 1099 OID will redirect those taxes. Those taxes, they belong to you because you are the creditor. See you on Saturday morning, guys.
Bye for now.